Captain Mason Hale sat alone in his cabin, staring at the pale glow of the navigation screen. Outside the viewport, the void stretched forever silent, endless, and cold. The Atlas was a research ship meant for calm observation. But ever since the distress signal near the abandoned colony, calm had vanished from his life. He rubbed his eyes. The hum of the engines filled the room like a heartbeat. The crew was asleep, and only the low pulse of the oxygen recycler kept him company. Then the door opened. He turned fast, expecting a crewman, but the figure who stepped inside made him freeze. A woman stood in the doorway. Her hair shimmered faintly, as if reflecting stars that were not there. Her clothes were strange, not military or civilian, soft fabric that caught the ship's dim light. For a long second, neither spoke. Then she said his full name, quietly, clearly, Mason Hale of Earth. No one on board used his full name. No one even knew it. He rose slowly. "Who are you? How did you get here?" She didn't answer right away. Her eyes moved around the room, studying every shadow, as though she had seen it before in another time. Then she looked back at him and said, "You don't remember me yet?" He stared, unsure if this was a joke or a dream. Her voice carried a tone that wasn't human yet, felt deeply familiar, like a melody he had once heard as a child and forgotten. The ship's internal sensors triggered a soft alert. The AI reported, "Unidentified biological presence detected. Life form registered and not registered. Paradox." Mason took a step closer. "You're not supposed to be here," she smiled faintly. "Neither are you." Her words sent a chill through him. She walked further in, the door closing behind her without command. When she moved, the air shimmered faintly, and the cabin lights flickered once. Like her presence disturbed the current. "What's your name?" Mason asked. "Alira?" He waited for more. When none came, he said, "Where did you come from?" She looked past him to the viewport, where stars drifted across the black. "From where your world will one day go," she said softly. He frowned. "That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll believe later." Her calm tone made him feel both angry and curious. Something about her felt real to be a hallucination. But her words made no sense. He moved toward the intercom. But she spoke again before he could touch it. "If you call your men," she said quietly, "the alarms will fail. Your systems are already listening to me." At that exact moment, the ship's hum shifted. The lights dimmed, then steadied. The console beside him showed stable readings, but the AI's voice returned. "Unauthorized override origin, unknown." Mason clenched his jaw. "You're interfering with my ship?" "No," she said, still calm. "I'm protecting it. From what?" "From what is coming?" The cabin fell silent. He waited, but she did not explain. Her gaze softened. "You don't believe me yet? But you will when the signal reaches you." She stepped closer. The air around her felt warmer, and her scent was faintly metallic. Like rain on old iron, Mason tried to keep his composure. But part of him felt like this moment wasn't happening for the first time. He shook his head. "You're from the colony, aren't you? You must be one of the survivors." She didn't blink. "There are no survivors." The way she said it without fear, without hesitation, made the truth settle deep in him. He remembered the transmission they'd picked up. 2 days earlier, a faint repeating pulse from a system listed as dead for 50 years. It had taken all his authority to divert the ship here. Now face to face with this woman, he felt he had made a mistake that would echo far beyond one mission. Alira turned to the small shelf near his bed and touched the old photograph, their picture of Earth, taken from orbit. Her fingers brushed it lightly. "You still carry home with you," she said. "Everyone does," Mason said quietly. "Even out here." She looked at him again, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "That's why you'll survive what's coming." Before he could ask what she meant, the ship trembled. The lights flickered again, this time harder. "Bridge to Captain Hale?" The intercom crackled. "Sir, we're getting a spatial disturbance of known origin." "It's pulling us off course." Mason ran to the door, but Alira's hand lifted gently. The tremor stopped. Silence fell again. "Fixed," she said simply. He turned to stare at her. What did you do? I spoke to it. He felt his throat tighten. Spoke to what? The void, she said, almost like she was explaining something simple. It listens sometimes. If you know how to ask. He stared at her, speechless. You can't be real, he whispered. She gave a small smile. That's what all of you say the first time. You didn't know what to do, call security, question her, or just stand there and listen. But she was calm, unthreatening, her movements soft and patient, as if she already knew every reaction he would have. Why are you here? He finally asked. To remind you, she said. Of what? That humanity still dreams. He frowned. What does that mean? Alira stepped closer, now just a few feet from him. When my kind lost our world, we lost our dreams first. We built ships, machines, weapons, but never hope. Then we found your signals in the dark. Your music, your laughter, your chaos. It frightened us, but it also woke something long buried. Her voice grew softer. You are the last species that still dreams while awake. We watched. We learned. And when the silence began to rise again, I came to find you. He wanted to ask what silence she meant, but her eyes, those strange, deep eyes, held him still. You shouldn't have come alone, he said at last. She smiled faintly. I'm not alone. I brought your future with me. Before he could respond, the console near the wall began to flash. A signal faint, rhythmic echoed through the cabin speakers. It wasn't any known distress code. The AI tried to decode it, but failed. Alira closed her eyes. It's starting, she said softly. They've found you. Mason rushed to the controls, his fingers flying across the keys. The signal grew stronger, like a heartbeat approaching. What's happening? He demanded. She didn't answer. Instead, she walked to the viewport and placed her hand against the glass. You call them storms, she said quietly. But they are not weather. Outside, space twisted. The stars bent and shimmered like ripples in water. A light began to grow too bright, too alive. Mason's instincts kicked in. Bridge shields up. Evade pattern 7. But before he could finish, Alira turned and met his eyes. Don't run. They can't be fought. Her calm voice clashed with the chaos of the alarms. He shouted, Who are they? She whispered, What your kind will one day become if you forget what it means to feel. The light outside flared, then faded. The alarms stopped. Everything went still. Mason's chest heaved. What did you do? I delayed them, she said softly. But not for long. He looked at her, heart pounding. Why me? Because you listen, she said. And because I dreamed of you. He blinked. Dreamed of me? She nodded. Before I was born? Her words felt impossible, but her tone carried truth. He stood there, unable to speak. Finally, she turned back toward the door. You'll need to trust me soon, Mason Hale. When the signal returns, follow it, no matter what the others say. Then, as quietly as she had entered, she stepped into the shadows near the corridor. The lights flickered once more and she was gone. The door remained closed. The sensors read nothing. But her voice lingered in his mind, soft and echoing like a dream. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the faint reflection of himself in the viewport glass. Outside, the stars looked different, brighter, sharper, almost alive. He didn't sleep that night. Somewhere in the ship's data core, a new file appeared, encrypted, impossible to trace. It contained coordinates far beyond the charted systems. And one message written in a language the AI couldn't translate. When you see me again, the dream will begin. Mason exhaled slowly. The hum of the ship filled the silence. He looked once more at the empty doorway and whispered, Who are you, Alira? The ship didn't answer. But far beyond the glass, a faint light pulsed once, as if something out there had heard him. And somewhere deep inside, Mason Hale felt it, the strange certainty that his life had just changed forever. Captain Mason Hale had not slept since that night. The lights of the ship felt colder, the hum of the engines quieter, as if the Atlas itself was listening. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Hurlira standing by the viewport. Her hand against the glass, stars bending around her like living light. The crew noticed his silence. They whispered in the corridors, saying the captain had seen something in the void. Some thought he was ill from long exposure to deep space. Others said the colony's distress signal had broken him. But Mason knew what he had seen. He knew she had been real. The encrypted file she left behind still sat locked in the ship's data core. The AI could not decode it, no matter how many cycles he ordered. It only produced a short phrase on the screen whenever he tried. "You will see me again when you stop running from the dark." Mason didn't understand what it meant, but he felt it was a warning. Days passed. The Atlas drifted toward the next waypoint of border region, near the dark edge of the Perseus Rift. It was a quiet part of the galaxy, full of dead stars and broken satellites, but Mason could not shake the sense that something watched them from the dark. On the fourth day, the communications officer called out, "Captain, we're picking up a faint energy reading ahead same frequency as the anomaly from before." Mason's pulse quickened. "Show it on screen." The main view filled with a swirl of faint blue light. It looked harmless, but every sensor on the ship went wild. The energy field pulsed like a heartbeat, matching the rhythm of the coordinates Alira had left behind. "Should we change course, sir?" his first officer asked. Mason stared at the light. "No, we go through." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. No one argued he had earned their trust long ago. But in their eyes he saw fear. The Atlas entered the field slowly. The blue light wrapped around the hull, crackling softly. The ship's metal groaned under pressure, yet the instrument showed no damage. For a moment, Mason felt weightless. Then, everything went silent. The lights dimmed. The AI's voice cut off mid-sentence. All power ceased. "Mason to engineering," he shouted. "Report." No response. The air grew heavy, thick with static. Then from behind him, a soft voice spoke. "You came," he turned sharply. She stood there again, Alira. No door had opened, no alarm had sounded. 1 second the room was empty, the next she was there, calm and still, as if she had never left. Her eyes glowed faintly blue this time. "The same shade as the field outside." "Alira," he whispered. "What are you?" "I told you," she said. "I'm what's left of a dream." He stepped closer. "You nearly got my crew killed. What is this field? Why bring us here?" She turned her gaze toward the window. "Because here, you can hear what others cannot. This is the edge of memory. My people built it to hide from what followed us." "Followed you?" Mason asked. She nodded. "Something born from our fear. It spreads between stars, erasing thought, turning life into silence. It destroyed my world. Soon, it will find yours." Mason's chest tightened. "Why me? Why this ship?" "Because you're still willing to listen," she said softly. "And because humanity still remembers how to hope." He studied her face. There was sorrow there, but also a strange warmth like someone carrying light through darkness. "If what you say is true," he said, "then teach me how to stop it." Alira looked surprised. "You would risk your people?" He smiled faintly. "We're human. Risk is what we do best." For the first time, she laughed. It was a quiet, gentle sound that filled the cabin like sunlight. Then she said, "Very well, Mason. Hail of Earth. I'll show you." Yes. The next hours felt like a dream. The ship's systems flickered to life under her touch. Energy patterns appeared on the screen's codes older than human language. She moved her hands over the controls, tracing invisible symbols in the air. And the Atlas responded as if it understood her. "What are you doing?" Mason asked. "Retuning your ship," she said. "Your machines think in lines. Mine think in circles. To see what I will show you, you must think in both." He didn't fully understand, but he trusted her as she worked. She told him about her world, a planet of silver oceans and cities that floated in light. Her people had once been explorers, dreamers, and builders, until the silence came. It began as whispers in the stars, a loss of color in the sky. Then their voices began to fade. One by one, worlds went quiet. Mason listened without interrupting. She spoke not with anger, but with deep sadness. "When I was born," she said, "my mother told me that dreams were alive. But when the silence took her, I saw her dreams turn to dust. So I came here to find the ones who still dream." Her words struck something in him. He remembered Earth's the sound of rain on rooftops, children laughing, old songs echoing through narrow streets. Humanity, for all its chaos, still held something wild and bright inside. "Alira," he said, "we'll help you. Whatever this thing is, we'll fight it." She looked at him carefully. "You can't fight it the way you fight enemies. You can only remind it what life sounds like." He frowned. "Remind it? It was once alive," she whispered. "Before fear consumed it." He didn't ask how she knew. Some truths didn't need proof, they were felt. The AI flickered back on, its voice trembling. "Captain, we are detecting a massive gravitational anomaly, a head-known source." Alira closed her eyes. "They're here sooner than I thought." "Who's here?" Mason demanded, the fragments of the silence. "They sense what I am." The ship shook. Lights burst and died. Outside the viewport, shapes began to form, dark and shifting, like smoke made of shadows. They moved without sound, blotting out the stars. The crew panicked on the bridge. Mason shouted orders, trying to stabilize the ship, but the controls froze again. Then Alira touched the console. The screens turned white, clearing the interference. "Don't fire," she said. "They feed on energy." Mason gritted his teeth. "Then what do we do?" "Sing," she said softly. He blinked. "What, your kind sings to the dark?" "You did it long ago when you first looked up at the night sky. That's why you survived. You gave the silence something to listen to." Her gaze was steady, her expression calm. Mason hesitated, then nodded. He opened the CUM system, patched through the old Earth database, and found a file, an ancient recording of a human lullaby. As the song played through the ship, the shadows outside slowed. The air seemed to vibrate. A faint shimmer of color appeared within the darkness, blue, gold and red, like the birth of a sunrise. Alira's voice joined the melody, not in words, but in tones that wrapped around the music like wind. The sound filled every corridor. The crew stopped shouting. They listened, and then, one by one, the shadow forms dissolved into light. The sensors cleared. Power stabilized. The field outside faded into calm. Mason looked at her in disbelief. "You did it." She shook her head. "You did. You reminded them." He stepped closer. "What are they now?" "Sleeping," she said. "For a while. After the danger passed." Alira seemed weaker. Her glow dimmed, her movements slower. Mason asked the medic to bring a scanner, but it showed nothing physical. It was as if she was made of pure light slowly burning out. "You're fading," he said quietly. "I'm not meant to stay here long," she replied. "This form is only a bridge. My time in your world is almost done." He wanted to protest, but she smiled. "Don't be sad, Mason. I came to give, not to stay." "What did you give?" He asked. "Choice," she said softly. "You can follow the coordinates I left the place where the first dream was born. There you'll find what your species needs to survive the next silence." She handed him a small crystalline sphere, glowing faintly. Inside, it swirled tiny lights like stars. "This is a map," she said. "Not of space, but of memory." He held it carefully. "And if I follow it, you'll find me again," she whispered, "or what remains of me." He felt something tighten in his chest. "You talk like you're saying goodbye." "I'm saying thank you," she replied. "For listening." Ship's lights dimmed again. Her form shimmered. Mason reached out, but his hand passed through her like mist. She smiled once more. "Don't stop dreaming," she said, and then she was gone. For a long time. Mason stood there, staring at the empty space where she had been. The crew waited for orders, but he gave none. His mind echoed with her words. "Find the first dream." He looked down at the sphere in his hand. The lights inside pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. He walked to the bridge. "Helm," he said, voice steady. Set course for these coordinates. The crew hesitated. Captain, that's beyond mapped space. The nearest chart ends before that point, Mason said. That's where we're going. The engines roared to life. The Atlas turned toward the unknown, its lights cutting through the dark as the ship accelerated. Mason sat back in his chair, the sphere glowing softly beside him. He whispered to himself, if dreams can end, they can also begin again. Outside the viewport, a new constellation flickered into being 3 stars, forming a pattern like an open eye. The AI noted the anomaly, but Mason only smiled. He knew she was watching, and somewhere in the endless black, the faint echo of a song human and alien together moved between the stars, carrying the memory of what it meant to dream. The Atlas moved through deep space with a soundless grace, its silver hull gliding between stars that no human had ever mapped. Captain Mason Hale sat in the command chair, eyes fixed on the glowing sphere that rested on the console beside him. Inside it, light swirled slowly, forming patterns that changed every few seconds, maps not of space, but of meaning. Every time the pattern shifted, the ship's sensors recorded faint pulses of unknown energy. They seemed to guide the vessel along an invisible current, like a river through the night. The crew no longer questioned where they were going. They had seen the impossible. They had heard the music that had turned shadow into light. Mason still heard her voice in the hum of the engines. Sometimes, when the lights dimmed during night cycle, he could almost see her reflection in the viewport, calm, patient, as if waiting for him to reach where she wanted him to go. Days passed, then weeks. The Atlas crossed the border of all known charts. Communication with the nearest human colony was impossible. Signals took months to travel this far. They were alone now, completely alone. But the loneliness didn't frighten Mason anymore. It felt like standing on the edge of discovery one evening. While the ship drifted near a massive blue nebula, the sphere began to glow brighter. The AI spoke in a calm tone. Captain, the object's energy output is increasing exponentially. Destination lock. Achieved. Distance. 1 light hour. Mason rose to his feet. Bring us closer. As they approached, the nebula opened like a curtain. Behind it lay a structure the size of a moon, smooth, white, and silent. It wasn't natural. It was a creation, ancient and perfect. The crew gasped. It's like a city, one whispered. Mason nodded slowly. The structure looked alive, covered in soft lines that pulsed with light. The sphere in his hand pulsed at the same rhythm. That's where she wanted us to go, he said quietly. The place of the first dream. He ordered the ship to hold position. Then he took a shuttle and went alone. The shuttle descended into the heart of the great white structure. There was no gravity well, no atmosphere, only stillness. Yet Mason felt warmth as he entered the inner chamber. It looked like a cathedral made of glass and starlight. In the center floated a crystalline pillar, rising from nothing, humming softly with the same tone he had once heard in Alira's voice. He approached slowly. Alira, he whispered. Light gathered above the pillar. A shape began to form a woman's outline, familiar and luminous. Her eyes opened, and she smiled gently. You found it, she said. Mason exhaled, half in awe, half in relief. I followed the coordinates. Was this your home? She shook her head. Not my home. My beginning. This is where my people left the memory of what we were, before fear made us something else.
Oh.
The room shimmered faintly. Images appeared on the walls, figures of her kind, bright and graceful, walking through light-filled cities. Then, slowly, the images turned dark. Those same figures faded into shadow, their light consumed by something black and endless. This is the silence, Alira said softly. We thought we could control it. We thought logic and reason would save us. But the more we feared the unknown, the more it grew. Until we forgot how to dream? Mason listened, heart heavy. And you think humans can change that? Her eyes glowed brighter. You already have. When you sang into the dark, you reminded it what it used to be. He stepped closer to the pillar. Then we can stop it. Not stop, she said. Transform. She raised her hand and the crystal responded, showing a map of countless galaxies connected by streams of light. Every dream touches another. The silence spreads when dreams die. If you teach your kind to remember to imagine, to create, to feel, then you'll keep it asleep. Maybe even heal it. Oh, Mason stared at the map. You're saying imagination is our weapon? Her lips curved into a faint smile. It's more than a weapon. It's the heartbeat of life. He hesitated, then asked the question that had haunted him since her first visit. Alira, what are you now? A person. A memory. She looked down, as if listening to something far away. I'm a trace of energy left behind when my people ended. The dream they couldn't destroy? You saved us, he said quietly. You could come back with us. Help rebuild. Her gaze softened. I can't. My presence depends on this place. But you can take what I am with you. The pillar opened, revealing a sphere of pure light. It pulsed in the same rhythm as the one he carried, but warmer live. This is the core of my memory, she said. It contains everything I've shown you and more. It will guide humanity when I'm gone. He stepped forward slowly, hands trembling as he lifted the sphere. What happens when I take it? Her form flickered. Then I rest. Mason's throat tightened. You don't have to go. I do, she said. I've been waiting to meet the one who could carry the dream forward. Now I have. He tried to speak, but words failed him. Alira smiled gently. Don't think of it as goodbye. Think of it as the start of your song. Light surrounded her. The hum in the chamber rose, filling every corner. The images on the walls shifted again, now showing Earth, its ocean shining beneath sunlight. Its people looking up at the stars. Her voice echoed softly through the chamber. Keep dreaming. Mason Hale. That is how your kind will save not just yourselves, but all that listens in the dark. Then her image dissolved into pure radiance, flowing into the sphere in his hands. The light faded, leaving only silence. Mason returned to the Atlas. The crew waited anxiously. When he entered the bridge, they saw the glow in his hands and fell silent. He placed the sphere in the ship's core chamber. The moment it connected, the entire vessel shuddered gently. Screens came alive with colors the human eye could barely register. The AI's voice changed deeper, calmer. Captain, new subroutines detected. Origin unknown. The system identifies itself as Alira. He smiled faintly. Welcome home. The ship responded with a soft pulse of light through every corridor, as if alive. Within hours, the Atlas's systems began to evolve. The engines stabilized beyond their normal limits. The sensors reached distances no human technology had ever achieved. And when they looked out through the viewport, the stars seemed brighter closer. Humanity's first contact with the unknown had changed them. Months later, the Atlas returned to human space. Mason reported what had happened, though no one on Earth believed the story completely. They called the new system Project Alira, an advanced AI network that would guide future missions. But Mason and his crew knew it was more than that. Whenever they entered deep space, the system hummed softly a song, faint but alive. It gave them warning of dangers before sensors could detect them. It healed broken circuits, calmed panicked minds, and sometimes whispered small fragments of words. One night, alone in his quarters, Mason heard her voice again through the soft hum of the ship. You kept the dream alive, she said. He closed his eyes and smiled. You're still here, always, she whispered. Where there are dreamers, I exist. He looked out the viewport. A new constellation had appeared near the edge of sight, 3 bright stars forming a spiral, just like the design inside the sphere. He realized it was not a random pattern. It was a message, a sign that she was watching. He whispered softly, You entered my life like a dream, Alira, and you never really left. Years passed. Humanity expanded beyond its old borders. New ships carried Alira's code in their hearts. Wherever they traveled, they built beacons that sang softly to the stars. The silence never returned. On Earth, children learned songs of the woman of light who had taught humans to dream again. Mason became a quiet legenda captain who brought back hope instead of conquest. He never spoke much of what happened, but those who knew him said He sometimes looked at the stars with a strange, peaceful smile. When he grew old, retired near the sea, where waves met the sky. At night, he often walked along the shore, holding a small pendant shaped like the glowing sphere. And sometimes, when the wind was still, he heard the same soft hum he had once heard in the void. One evening, as the sun sank below the horizon, the pendant flickered with light. A voice, gentle and familiar, spoke once more. "Mason Hale of Earth," it said, "you kept your promise." He looked up at the sky, where stars shone brighter than ever. "I only followed your dream." "No," the voice replied, "you made it your own." The light faded. The waves continued to whisper against the sand, steady and calm. Mason smiled and sat quietly, watching the stars come alive above him far across the galaxy. Beyond time and distance, the great white structure slept, its lights dim but pulsing softly. In its heart, a faint voice echoed through eternity, "Humans dream. Therefore, the stars remember." Somewhere between those stars, a shimmer of light moved soft, bright, and warm like a woman stepping into a room, her presence gentle as a dream that never truly ends.